WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson. We got an exciting weekend of wrestling coming up. We got the sections from this past weekend in both AA and AAA, so a lot of wrestling to talk about. But we're going to wrap that into the preview for this weekend because not only do we have AA, we have AAA, and we have the girls, all the WPIAL championships happening this weekend. And also, Jeff, another big day coming up as well on Friday that's not high school related, but college related, because it'll be the last match the Pitt Panthers wrestle in the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, have you seen the new place?
I haven't yet, no.
The pictures look pretty awesome. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's historic, but it's also it's bittersweet. It's sad, but it's also really cool to see the new venue that they're going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll have a matchup with Virginia. They're favored in it, so it'll be good to potentially send off with a victory out of Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. But so many memories, right? I mean, not only from the college side, but also the Wrestling Classic being there for a number of years.
Yeah.
There's just so much history and just great wrestling that's happened in that building.
For sure. Yeah. It's like I said, bittersweet.
Do you have a favorite memory that comes to mind?
I mean, mine are, I definitely saw more classic matches there than I did pit matches. Man, there's a lot of, just thinking back to all the classic matches, one of the memories I can remember distinctly is Austin Bell taking down Mark Hall, getting a takedown on him, and just kind of the place, even though it was just one takedown, I mean, he lost the match, but, Mark Hall came into this as a huge name, right? And Austin Bell getting the takedown was kind of cool. I just remember that specifically, but there's so many good matches there at the Classic. It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah, for me, the one that really sticks out in broadcasting it over the last 14 years is the match against Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
where Mickey Philippi upset Dayton Fix.
Yeah.
That the place went bonkers, right? It was just such an exciting match. Probably one of the best matches Philippi wrestled in college. It was just a great match, and the atmosphere was out of this world.
Yeah.
Because it was a sold out place. I mean, they had the bleachers down in the top row because of how many people were there.
For sure. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it was just a great atmosphere to be in, to be calling that one. So, yeah, a lot of great memories, but that one definitely sticks out as far as a top memory. But let's dive into the wrestling side here in the high school for the weekend, Jeff, coming up. And we'll look at the AA side first. And right now the seeds are out on the WPIAL website. The brackets aren't out, but at least the top 8 seeds are. And it starts at 107. Mason Kiesecker of Derry. He had a solid section tournament and winning the title. And he's got the number 1 seed. Angelo Bonai of Central Valley, 2. Braden Hanning of Jefferson Morgan, 3. And the good thing in this particular case, they seeded the section champs, but they did not go by section champs in a formula for AA and AAA. I do like that. They did recognize if the top 2 kids were in the same section. And then Warren Woolsagel of Elizabeth Forward, he was number 4. But that starts out the 107-pound weight class. And really, I think the section champs were pretty deserving of the top seeds here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also look at like a Woolsagel. I mean, he doesn't get punished for finishing second behind Kiesecker, who's, in my opinion, the best 107-pounder in the WPIAL by far. So, yeah, I mean, I like how they seeded it. I think it's pretty chalk, the top 8. I don't think you can really, I don't really think you can argue that the seeds aren't correct based on the body of work. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with it. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a ton of upsets, even though on paper Woolsagel was a top seed. I mean, I think most people expected Kiesecker to win that. So there wasn't a lot of surprises at 107 pounds in AA.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could be frustrating on the Woolsagel side is that he's on the same half with Kiesecker again, right after losing to him last week. But at the end of the day, Bonai and Hanning both have great seasons and both deserving of where they are. But just a tough break to have to face him in the semis as opposed to trying to get a chance to see him in the final.
Yeah.
114 pounds, Patrick Bolger of Derry. He is your top seed. He defeated Javion Chambers of Highlands in the section final. Chambers gets the number 2. Bobby Lemley of Bentworth, the number 3. Jack Kondrasik of Laurel is the number 4.
This was one where we wanted to see Bulger and Chambers again. Last time they had wrestled, I think it was an overtime match. It was close. Bulger this time comes out and beats him 10-3, right? And again, Chambers is not punished for finishing second in his section. He's a returning state medalist, right? While he's maybe not having the year he wants, he's still a returning state medalist, and he's still one of the best guys in the WPIAL. So I'm not mad at all at the way these things turned out. I mean, Bobby Lemley's had a really good freshman campaign. Those Bentworth guys, they've wrestled a ton of matches. I feel like they've wrestled so many different tournaments. But again, not a lot of upsets. On paper, you look at Lemley beating Delaney from Jefferson Morgan. I don't really think that was as much of an upset. Maybe some things on the back end, like Mace finishing 4th as opposed to 3rd. So, but mostly everything went pretty chalk.
121 pounds, Preston Bubash of Elizabeth Forward. He's your number 1. Bruce Anderchak of Quaker Valley. He's your number 2. Those two seem like on a collision course with one another. Michael Piro of North Catholic, number 3. Caden Braun of Freedom, number 4.
So this one got a little busted, a little broken up. That's mainly because of Gage Bradley of Burgettstown from the South section. He came out, I don't know what he was seeded. He wasn't seeded in the top 4, I can tell you that. He comes out and wins the title, beats McClure 9-7 in the semifinals, and then beats Medlin 5-4 in the final. So that, to me, was probably the biggest surprise there. But to be honest with you, I mean, Bubash and Anderchak, they've been on a collision course for a long time. They've wrestled each other a whole bunch in the past before, so not surprising to see them 1 and 2 there. Piero from North Catholics had a good season thus far. Loses to Anderchak in the finals, gets pinned by him in under a minute. Braun, I thought, had a good showing as well, even though he fell a little bit short. So yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think there was a lot to nitpick here. I think Gage Bradley sort of upset the apple cart a little bit just by what he was able to do.
Yeah, and in turn, it forces Medlin and McClure down a bit, right?
Right,
6,
exactly.
7,
yeah,
where they could have been a little bit higher. But, at the end of the day, I think you got, because of Braun and the season he's had, with Piro beating him, it was like, okay, well, which one goes 3, right? And I think this is going to be Piro, Braun, Bradley, Medlin, McClure. When you take the top 8 out of AA, right? So, all these guys should advance. But I think it's going to be a battle for 3 to 7, right?
I agree, yeah.
And even throw in Raiden Thomas and a couple others who are unseeded. I mean, I think it's going to be a battle. We know the top 2 are going to be the top 2, but who's going to be 3 to 8? And I think that's what's up for grabs.
Yep, for sure.
127 pounds, Cam Baker of Burrow, your top seed. Austin Kasanovic of Avonworth, number 2. Clayton Ely, McGuffey, number 3. Danny Smith of Burgettstown at number 4.
Again, not a ton of surprises here. I think the seeds are pretty much reflective of how we saw things play out, right? I mean, Cam Baker dominated. Poland was able to make the finals there, and he's had a good season thus far. Kasanovic dominated. There was a lot of domination. Clayton Ely, although Clayton Ely had a tight one in the semifinals against Cronin from Best Center, and then Cronin falls to 6th. So that, to me, when you look at the South section at 127, this was the one that was kind of, up in the air. And it was definitely the toughest, at least at 127, especially with the parity. You had Noah Patton there as well, loses to Smith, but comes back to take 3rd. Samuel of Avella had a good win over Cronin, beats him 7-3. So, again, much like what we talked about at 121, I think the top 2 are pretty clear. I think Baker and Kasanovic are pretty tight in that. I'm not saying they're Boobash and Anderchak, but they're pretty close. And then I think the rest are kind of up for grabs. Ely maybe a little bit more separation from the field.
Yeah, I think I like Ely and Smith to definitely, advance for sure, and be in that top half, I would say. But yeah, definitely, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest shake out as far as
Yeah,
that goes. Because you even have guys like Victor Wagner of
Victor
North Catholic,
Wagner,
for
right?
instance,
Yeah,
who's
Delaney.
unseeded.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So you got some guys who could come out from being unseeded to win a couple of matches and potentially get into that top 8 mix. 133, Lucas Barr of McGuffey. He's your top seed. Noah Collins of West Green, number 2. Camden Olson of Derry, number 3. And Jeremy Wagner of Keystone Oaks at number 4.
we had talked about some of the guys that did well. I forgot to mention that Dylan Bateman from Derry, who was a return state qualifier, did not wrestle at 127, so he was out. That was a little surprising to see that he wasn't. I thought he was in the seeds initially. I'll have to go back and look, but he did not wrestle. That's a returning state qualifier, which would have had some depth there at 127. Of course, we know Antonio Bonai, the returning state runner-up from Central Valley, he's out at 133. But Lucas Barr down from 139 to 133 now. He dominated in the sections. Camden Olson gets that rematch against Betts. He beats him 3-2 this time, so still a tight match there between these two. And I don't know if it's just a style matchup or what. I mean, and Betts, we don't see a ton of him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's hard. There's not a lot of paper on him. I think he's had less than 25 matches, which back in the day wouldn't seem that crazy. But in today's world, I mean, when you're wrestling 60 matches a season, potentially, having under 25 matches going into the postseason is pretty low. So, but yeah, I think Barr, Collins, again, maybe you could argue, Collins getting tech followed by Barr, maybe he's not quite there yet. But like in our rankings, we have Barr, then we have Olson, Betts, and then Collins, and actually Carter Thomas ahead of him. So yeah, I mean, I think you could split hairs here at 133 a little bit, but there's not a lot. There's a lot of head-to-heads, but there's a lot of A beat B, but B lost to C, C beat A, right? There's a lot of those that happened at 133, especially not only in the WPIAL, but the region itself, the Southwest region.
Yeah, and you mentioned Thomas. He's down at the number 7 seed, so he and Collins could face in the quarters, and that could be one of those, upsets that, if you're looking for one early, that could be it as far as a quarterfinal matchup.
And that's a returning state qualifier in Thomas, like that's no slouch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think, Olson and Betts, I would have loved to see that happen again in the semis. Now with Barr up there at the top, this matchup may not happen, right? Unless Thomas can not only beat Collins, but then potentially Olson as well. But yeah, that definitely, I thought Collins was a little bit high, and Olson, Betts, I would have loved to seen that in the semi. But, that we could see Olson and Thomas instead.
Yeah.
139 pounds, Drake McClure of Bentworth, the 1. Mason Wright of Best Center, the 2. Michael McNeil of Derry, the 3. Jake Stewart of Burrell, the 4.
Again, not a ton of surprises here. Drake McClure, I mean, he dominated, right? We knew how good he was coming into this, but him and Mason Wright, the McNeil one, that was to me, where were they going to put him? Because McNeil, I mean, he's been, I think we talked about it last week, how he's been kind of on a tour of like all the weights. He comes out and he beats Jacob Stewart in the finals 4-2, right? But there's not a lot of results from him at 139 per se. So I didn't know exactly where they were going to put him. I was hoping that they were going to put him 3 where I thought he should be. I think Stewart is right there at 4 as well. But there's definitely, I mean, like Caddis from Burgettstown, Brewer from Laurel, like there's some quality guys there. But I think the top 4 are pretty, I don't know if you would agree or not, but I think the top 4 are pretty solid here.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And obviously McClure and Wright might be a tiny slight above McNeil and Stewart, but I mean, I think there's still going to be good matchups in the semis. But I definitely like the 1 through 4 here, and I don't. There's no way to argue the seeds. I think it's spot on as far as that goes. And then I think it will be okay. That next tier, right? Carter Cadis, Archer
Mm-hmm.
Brua, solid guys, but maybe not quite to McNeil Stewart. So again, maybe they're at that next tier of like 5, 6. Definitely some tiers, I think, at 139. But overall, I agree that I would say those four are a solid four and expect them to be in the semis. 145 pounds, Julian Bertucci of Burrow, your number one. William McNeil of Derry at 2. Emmett Wolf of McGuffey at 3. Ethan Bosco of Central Valley at 4.
Bosco had a good tournament. I was impressed with him, especially as a freshman coming into his first postseason. Even though he was the top seed, Sipes from Quaker Valley, I thought was going to be a tough one. Sipes had a tough semifinal with Millward from Freedom, who ends up in third. So you have really good top three there from the North section. But Bertucci and McNeil, I mean, those guys went, I think, tiebreaker, right? Yeah, tiebreaker. So not surprising to see them 1 and 2. I think they're clearly the top two there. Wolf beat Patton in the finals. Patton's one of those ones as well where he's a returning state qualifier, but just hasn't had maybe the season that he wanted to. I just, yeah, I don't see where you can make any changes. I think Bertucci, McNeil, Wolf. I like Bosco there. Maybe you could. I mean, Sipes and Patton are maybe Millard could be above Rightweiser. I don't know if they've had a head-to-head or not, but yeah, I mean, you're splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah, and some of these, I'll be frank, I don't know all of the head-to-heads of all of these guys, but I would probably you're splitting hairs. You're correct. Maybe I flip Patton and Sipes just so you don't see the section rematches happen so quick in the quarters,
Right.
right? Between Bosco and Sipes and Wolf and Patton, just to get a little bit of a different mix in since we just saw these matchups a week ago. But at the end of the day, being where they are, if you feel Bertucci and McNeil are the top two guys, what we could see all of these guys face off between the quarters and then into the consolations.
Mm-hmm.
So not like to your point, splitting hairs, but maybe just because it's the winners bracket and they just wrestled a week ago, we keep them slightly away from each other, if they're that close,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
152, top seed is Lucas Boyer of Elizabeth Forward. Number 2, Jonah Early of Fraser. Number 3, Tristan Workowicz of Mount Pleasant, and number 4, Victor Bonus of McGuffey.
When you look at 152, Lucas Boyer is I would say the favorite, but I mean, because he's a returning state medalist, but Jonah Erdley's had a really good season thus far. Logan Cruel from Avonworth, impressed by him, as a freshman coming in at a heavier weight. I thought he's wrestled really well. And to be honest with you, when you look at kind of where the sections fell, the South section was pretty stacked, right? Because you had Logan Noyes, who is a returning state qualifier. He was third? Yeah. Victor Bonus beats him in the semifinals. So, and then Early has a somewhat tight one with Bonus in the finals there. So, I like Boyer Eardley. I probably would have went Bonus ahead there, but again, I think it'll come out in the wash, I guess, so you could say, but because I think the top two are pretty set, right? So I think these two are both going to lose in semifinals, and they have a good chance to both get wins to see each other in the consolations. But I like Logan Cruel. I'm excited to see where he ends up, and just as a freshman.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bonus and Noise. You want to see that matchup again potentially in the quarters, but I wonder how Logan Cruel dropping him down to 6. He's the wild card, I think, right?
Yeah.
I like that he's going to feed into Workowicz of Mount Pleasant. I think it's going to be a fun matchup to watch in the quarters. I agree with your thought of Boyer Early 1-2. Like them to be in the finals. And I think it's going to be a battle for 3-6. I really do.
Yeah.
And Logan Cruel could be the guy that comes out on top of that. But being a freshman and not having maybe as many matches against some of these guys, that we'll see what he can do. But that's definitely one that I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yep.
160 pounds, Owen Ivsick Bentworth, your number one. Matt Dana of Quaker Valley at 2. Ewan Olson of Derry 3. And Alec Palco of Jefferson Morgan at 4.
I mean, this is stacked weight, right? I mean, when you look
Yeah.
at the Southwest Regional rankings, it's there's a lot of District 7 wrestlers represented there. So um, Dana had a really nice win over Carr. Braxton Carr, again, I feel like a broken record, but returning state qualifier, hasn't had the season that he had last year, at least to this point. But Dana comes out and gets a tech fall against him. So I think that's a good result for him. Ifjik beats Palco. Palco beat Newman in the semifinals. I think those top three out of the South section were pretty stacked. Um, Dana and Olson have split this year. So when I look at it for rankings purposes, Dana's had the last win, but Olson's got more quality wins based on maybe basically because of their schedule and the way that they've wrestled throughout the postseason. So yeah, I'm not upset with the seedings. I mean, I like Reynolds, I like Carr, Reynolds, Newman. I don't think you can argue with that. Perkins, yeah, I mean, I think he's in the right spot too. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely seated correct. The top 8 are very tough in this weight class. To your point, I mean, I think the 3 section champs all deserve the top 3 seeds here, and Palco is a solid sophomore,
Yep.
who's a tough guy, and obviously Perkins, we know from coming from Valley to Burrell, and he's been tough all season, so that's going to be an exciting quarterfinal matchup, in my opinion. Getting to see those two go at it, and Carr, obviously, to your point of not having the best season that he had from a year ago, but he could turn it on at any time, and Newman's a dangerous 8, so
Yeah.
it is the top 8 here are very, very solid, and definitely quarterfinals should be fun to watch at this weight class. 172, Mason Horwat of Derry, your number 1. Dominic Willis of Laurel, number 2. Aaron Suppler, of McGuffey at 3. And Ben Catullo of Burrell at 4.
It's a little bit different than 160, right? 160, we were talking about a variety of names. 172, I mean, there's just not there, right? We know how good Horwat is. Dominic Willis, I think he's a solid number 2 there. But then it gets pretty wide open, with Supler, Cotillo, Chaz Rush from Avella. Elijah Miller's had a good season, but these guys are all unproven. All these guys, a lot of them are trying to make their first regional tournament. So I know Supler's qualified before. Cotulla was a state qualifier last year. Willis is a returning regional qualifier. But yeah, I mean, you got Horwat, like we're talking about tiers. You got Horwat. Maybe I put Willis in that next tier down, him and Cotulla, but then it's pretty much wide open. I think you could throw in Elijah Miller as probably one of the more favorite ones. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's going to shake out. We know Horwat's going to be the guy, but how the other 2 through 8 figures out is going to be interesting.
Yeah, literally, I think shake them up, right? I mean, Brinkle, Yeater. I mean, some of these guys at 7, 8, even some couple of guys are even unseated, right? Mason Kovacic of Keystone Oaks. There's guys that I think could come out and come into this top 8 because to your point, anyone outside of Horwat, could come in 2 through 8. I think Willis of it does advance. I think Supler of McGuffey does advance. Same with Catullo, but are they 2, 3, 4? I don't know.
Don't know, right?
Chaz Rush has the talent from Avella to be in that mix in the top 4, but is he going to be able to put consistent matches together? I think that's been his challenge to this point as up to his junior season. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes in as a top 8. We know who 1 is, but where's the rest shake out?
Right.
189, Brady Brown of Derry is your top seed. Trey Dunlap of Quaker Valley at 2. Malachi Peak, best center at 3. Jake Mundorf of Ligonier Valley at 4.
Again, no issues there. I don't see even the top. Looking at the top 7, 8, I mean, Taggart lost to Muzzy from Avella. I tell you what, your Avella Eagles had a good section tournament, bud.
They did. They
I
did.
there were some guys that outkicked their coverage. There were some guys that did better than I expected. We kind of know who their better wrestlers were, but some of these middle tier wrestlers, like Muzzy was one of them. I think we talked about Chaz Rush. I mean, these guys I thought wrestled well. Much like 172, 189 is Brady, at least in the WPIAL, it's Brady Brown, and then the rest, right? I don't have any issue with this. I like Dunlop and Peak at 2 and 3. Mundorf, yeah, I don't have any issue with it, and I think everything kind of went as planned, other than Taggart losing. Taggart was a little bit more of a surprise, him falling to Muzzy, but shout out to the Eagles of Avella.
Yeah. No, and you know what? Taking the top 8, if they can remain, the point is consistency, right? And that's why I mentioned about Chaz Rush, and that's what it is with a lot of the Avella Eagle guys. They've shown they have some of the talent to be there in that mix, but if they can be consistent, especially this weekend, because you're taking 8 to the next round,
Yep.
right? You just got to advance, right? You just got to keep advancing. And this is all, if they can be consistent on the mat this weekend, I could see a number of guys, getting in that, maybe not in the top 2, 3, 4, but definitely in that 5 to 8 range and advancing the next week. And that gives them another shot.
Right.
But to your point, yeah, I mean, I think this one's seated, exactly how I'd put it together. Interested to see if Malachi P can make it to the finals and knock off Dunlap. But definitely this one's Brady Brown's to lose, without a doubt. 215 pounds, Noah Lehue, a best center, your number 1. Colton Carlson of Laurel at 2. Ty Blasco of Derry at 3. And Adam Beloga of Burgestown at 4.
Yeah, I mean, the WPIAL's just not very strong at 215. I mean, Lehue and Carlson are tough, but I mean, Ty Blasco has had a good year for our freshman at 215 and 189, but I mean, there's just not a lot of, when I look at the Southwest regional rankings, I mean, we have Carlson 1 as a returning state qualifier, Lehue is number 4 behind 2 guys from District 6. But outside of that, I mean, the closest one is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Blasco. So, like, I mean, there's a significant drop off here. So, I mean, like, if Aiden Kuhn comes to wrestle, he could do well, right? But again, I think you could throw him around in a bag, and I say Beluga of Burgestown. I was impressed with him. And I thought, there's a chance for some of these guys to sort of make a push, right? And put themselves in a position to give them a chance at the regional tournament to do well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Seems like Lehue and Carlson will be on that collision course to get to the final, but 3 through 8 should be interesting. And Beloga, one of those guys, as a senior, can he be that next person up at this weight class? 285 pounds, Colin White of West Green, your number 1 seed. Casey Wilson of Laurel at 2. David Peters, Greensburg Salem 3. Joe Wilson of Washington at 4.
Yeah, I thought Wilson, Joe Wilson, that is, because there's a couple Wilsons here. I thought Joe Wilson could have been a little bit higher than where he was. But yeah, I mean, I would move it up to 3 potentially, but I would want him away from White. Maybe have the Wilson on Wilson semifinal. That's not taking anything away from Peters. I just think Wilson, body of work wise, probably could have been in that slot. But yeah, just like 215, it's a little bit more wide open than some of the other weight classes. Colin White and Casey Wilson are 2 returning state medalists, excuse me. And White's really established himself as one of the best in the state. So I think I don't have any problem with that. But a guy like Landon Heath could pop off and do well. Caden Shannon from Southmoreland as well. Schwam from Mount Pleasant. I mean, these are guys that have been wrestling in the WPIAL for quite a number of years, and some of them have strung it together, some of them haven't, right? Landon Heath qualified as a freshman for regionals, hasn't made it there since, right? So again, if you can put it all together this weekend, then you put yourself in a better position to sneak into the top, 6 at the regional tournament.
Yeah, and Shannon and Heath have had moments where they've been solid, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think I'd put Joe Wilson above Peters only because I'd like to see him away from Colin White, not have to see that matchup again. But again, it's kind of splitting hairs, right? It seems like Colin White, Casey Wilson are the top two guys here at this weight class. So, expect that to play out. And obviously, Wilson Peters can work that out in the consolations
Right.
as far as that goes. Wrestling for Double A is at Chartiers Valley. Wrestling starts at 5 p.m. on Friday, and then it goes back on at 10 a.m. on Saturday with the medal matches happening at 3 p.m. And again, top 8 out of Double A will advance. Slide over to Triple A, Jeff, where at 107 pounds, Lee Dreschman of Cannon McMillan, he was the champion of this very challenging section. Michael Johnson of West Allegheny, who he beat in the final, is number 2. Riley Smith of Seneca Valley gets the 3 seed. Bryce Thomas of Moon gets the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I'll I think Bryce Thomas probably could have been the 3. Just
Yeah.
just based off of some head-to-head results and some comparables. But I think look, Riley Smith's 36-1, right? His only losses to Leo Morales of Trinity. So I think he's okay there. I just probably would have seeded it. I probably would have had Thomas as the 3rd to put him against Johnson. That's just where I'm at. I think Parker Jennings probably could have been ahead of Butera. Butera, I mean, the one that Colangelo from Franklin Regional is the one that surprised me with his result, right? Because we had seen him for weeks, him and Butera, and honestly, that was the reason why they won the duel. I mean, how many times, right?
Yeah.
Was him beating Butera, right? This time around, it goes a little bit different, right? I mean, because they didn't hit head to head, but Colangelo lost to Bretzel of PT, and then Butera beats him in the final. So I think he got punished. Colangelo got punished depending on where he actually ends up in the bracket. But I don't love 107 just because I just don't love it. But I guess we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I think with the record that Riley Smith has, coupled with not wrestling a lot of these guys, made it okay. Where do we put him? Right. I'm with you. I thought Bryce Thomas looked really good. He and Michael Johnson had a battle in the
Yeah.
semifinals. Johnson ended up winning that one, but Thomas was in that match, and then he pins Parker Jennings in the first period. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
Bryce Thomas looked really good. I definitely would have probably put him at 3. I think the one, I guess, good thing is that Thomas will wrestle Butera. Jennings will wrestle Smith potentially in the quarterfinals. And we'll see if it shakes out that those are the top 4 guys going into the semis. Now, the top 7 move on in each weight. So, at the end of the day, it's all about advancing. But
Well, and there's gonna be a lot
I
of
do
guys sitting at
agree.
home that are ranked in the region that are not gonna make it. I look at, oh man, kid from Bell Vernon. Say his last name, Greg. You said it well last time.
Guglielmo.
Guglielmo. Yeah. I thought
He's tough.
he's super tough. I mean, he's really tough. He lost 1-0 to Butera, but then he beats Colangelo, and he finishes 3rd in the toughest section, and where is he? He's not in the top 8. Yeah, so I mean, you could argue. I mean, he has a win over Brentsel. You could argue that he could be ahead of Brentsel. They both beat the same guys. They both beat Gray, and they both beat Colangelo.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
he both beat the same 2 kids, right? And has a win over him head to head. So I mean, yeah, I think there's definitely some areas where you could have improved the seedings here.
Well, I think they just didn't know where to seed the North guys. I mean, to be frank, right? I mean, where do you put Riley Smith? Where do you put Joey Sanan of North Allegheny? And I think that's where the challenge may come. So, Guglielmo, Gray of Connellsville, Colangelo, Franklin Regional. where do these guys fit in? Who's going to get signed in? Who's going to get Brensel? Who's going to go into, Batera or Jennings? And then who's going to come out, right?
Yeah,
Those will be some battles in the round of 16 that, could really decide a lot of things as far as this top seven. And then, once you're in that consolation, who's going to drop down to you? But I think one thing is for sure. I think Dreschman proved that he is the top guy in this weight
agreed.
class.
Yes.
Um, he looked very good against Johnson, controlled the entire match. So I think he's definitely, I mean, Johnson gave him, he still battled him. Don't get me wrong, but I think Dreschman is, that top guy right now. Johnson and Thomas to me looked like 2, 3,
Well, I think
based on how they
Johnson's a clear number two. He's the only returning state qualifier in the weight.
Well, especially after Thomas now being on the opposite end of him in the bracket. I mean,
Right.
it was a good match between Johnson and Thomas. But because they're on opposite ends, I think Johnson has that clear shot for two. And to me, I thought Bryce Thomas looked really good, and I expect him to be 3. But everything else is going to be okay, jockeying and positioning to see who can get 4 to 7.
Yeah, I mean Jennings, Smith, Synan. I think you throw them in a bag, toss them around. I think any one of them could come out on top. To be honest with you, when you look at those three, but then I put like Butera, uh, Guglielmo, Brensel, Colangelo, and kind of another tier. But yeah, I don't love some of the things because I look at the bracket. I'm thinking, okay, does this make sense, right? But I it is hard. It's not easy. I would, and there's not really a right or wrong way. This is just opinions of and there's probably nobody in the state that understands the results of these guys like I do, just because of doing the rankings every single week and combing through results, head to heads, doing comparables. It's just you kind of learn who has wins over guys and who has losses. And it kind of it makes sense when you throw it all on paper.
Yeah, for sure. 114 pounds, Nick McGarity of Peters Township, your top seed. Dylan Barrett of Penn Trafford at 2. Zach Rehack of Thomas Jefferson at 3. And Bennett Ferraro of Pine Richland at 4.
That East was a tough section, right? I mean, you had Franks, it's Franks and Barrett. That was a sudden victory. The score said 13-2 in sudden victory. I'm not good at math, Greg. I did go to WVU, but that doesn't compute, right? How do you win 13-2 in sudden victory? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, because you would assume you go into sudden victory 2-2. So how does Dylan Barrett end up with 11 points? And I hope his dad's listening so he can message me and let me know. But nonetheless, Barrett, Franks, barn burner, Fennick, who has a win over Franks. He loses the Rehack, and he have gone back and forth. In fact, if you remember last year in the WPIAL team tournament, Rehack packed him in like 30 seconds, right? They've gone back and forth. So it ends up Barrett, Rehack, Fennick, and Franks, Broadwater, and then Morris. So this is a really solid top 6 at 114 pounds for these guys. Then you throw in Bennett Ferraro, who took it to Anthony Jones, and I think that was an impressive performance by him. McGarity is clearly the guy here. I think Hoy and Islamov was a good match to kind of see where they're at, but I mean, I think you had to go off of if you looked at the way that the seeds turned out, I think you had to go off the East. Whatever happened to the East was kind of it, and then throw Bennett Ferraro in there where you felt like he should be. I will say I think Fennick should have been ahead of Ferraro, even though Fennick's had a limited season this year. I just think based on their comparables, I think he probably should have been ahead of him. But I don't have any issue with the rest of it. You know, when you have Zach Franks down at a 6, you know that's a deep weight class for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, 4 or 5, they're probably going to meet in the quarters anyway.
I know,
So
I get it.
yeah, that's not too much of a big deal in my opinion. But yeah, you got. I mean, I think McGarity and even to a degree, but Barrett. I mean, you got 2 great guys right there, and then the top 6 are solid, and then it's kind of like who's going to get that last spot. because I think those top six to me seem pretty secure. But then, you give the seeds to Hoy and Islamov, but Morris, Broadwater, both tough. You got Anthony Jones, who has his moments, right?
Yeah.
Dalton Stragand of North Allegheny. So you guys, a lot of guys, I think, in that next tier, and there's one spot left. It's not
Hmm.
like there's multiple spots these guys are battling for, because to me, I think there is that top six, and then it's like a next step down, and who gets that last one?
Yep. Yep. We'll see.
121 pounds. First and foremost, I think there was a typo here from
I
the
do.
WPIAL side. So Landon Sidden of Norwin at number one. Also lists Damon Phipps of Penn Hills at number one,
They're
but Phipps
sharing the number
lost
one
to
seed.
Stromberg.
They're going to share it.
What's that?
They're
Yeah,
going to share the one seed.
that's right. Well, at first when I was looking at this, I was like, wait a second, how did Phipps get over Capusta? But then looking through it, it looks like
Maybe they thought
it
it
must.
was Curtis Phipps who came back,
Yeah,
and they
he
didn't know who
transferred
to,
to Penn
because they're
Hills
both
with that.
Norwin guys. Maybe they didn't know who to put, so they're like, well, yeah, I don't think Damon Phipps. I mean, I think Damon Phipps is having a good year, but I don't think he's the number one seed.
Yeah, especially with his loss to Schaumburg as well. But Sidna is the one. Nico Capusta of Hempfield at number two. Titus Colangelo of Franklin Regional at three. And Tommy Gretz of Connellsville at number four. Pretty solid top four, Jeff.
I mean, look, Landon Sidden, it went the distance. He didn't text somebody. He
Yeah.
went the difference twice. He beat Tommy Gretz 8-0, and then he beats Capusta 6-1. Look, Capusta, he's wrestling very, very well right now. I mean, he majors Colangelo, who has multiple wins over Tommy Gretz. I mean, Tommy Gretz, a returning state medalist, sixth in the state nonetheless, finished in fourth in his section, right? Um, that's just a loaded weight class. When you look at the section at 121 in the East with number one in the nation, Landon Sidden, he doesn't even get a bonus point win. That's how tough WPIAL wrestling is. That's how tough, Westmoreland County is at times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it, it's pretty impressive. So these guys, I thought, all were where they should have been, where they fell in. Schaumburg gets that win over Phipps, as you mentioned. Gianna Gardner, I thought, him beating Bricker, that wasn't a surprise, but yeah, I don't have a problem with where these guys ended up. Sid in 1, Capusta 2. I think you had to go there. Colangelo and Gretz, you had to go there. Gardner, I think, as a section champ, gets that nod over Cordova, even though he was in a really tough section. Schaumburg, if you're looking at him, you're like, man, I'm a section champ and I'm the 7th seed. What the hell, But you have to weigh the fact that the East was just so deep.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the East had the four best guys in their weight class all in that section, and kudos to the committee for recognizing that and putting them 1 through 4 here for the WPL tournament. And then to your point, right? I mean, Schaumburg may have some beef on it, but at the end of the day, Gardner was also a section champ. He's at 5,
True.
5 and 7. So you're talking about, how the high only place he could have gone was 5 or 6 for Schaumburg. So, not much of a difference as far as, moving too much higher. But, Gardner, Cordova, Schaumburg, are they the next 3 guys? You got Riley Doppelauer there as well, but you also, I mean, it's got some depth, right? You got Nick Savannah, Butler, there as well, who's going to be unseated. Gavin Bricker of Trinity, section runner-up, who's going to be unseated. Damon Phipps of Penn Hills. So you have some guys that could come in and grab one of those final 3 spots.
For sure.
127-pound Santino Sloboda of Butler. He is your number 1 seed. Dom Canale of Trinity at 2. Colton Klippa of Norwin at 3. Nolan Rice of Connellsville at 4.
I thought Nate Carasolio got hosed a little bit. To be honest with you, finishing 3rd in the East, I thought should have got him a little bit higher than where he is. But it is what it is. And the reason I say that is because I look at like Luke DeSantis from Penn Trafford, who's a returning state qualifier. He made it to the state tournament last year, and Carasola beat him, right? So that to me weighs a little bit heavier than some of these other ones, right? Klippa beating Rice, that earned him that position at the third spot. I think Sloboda is definitely the one, right? You can't not have Santino Sloboda the one. Dom Canali is clearly the two, right? They're both returning state medalists, both top 5 in the state last year. Colton Klippa has had a great sophomore campaign, beating Rice, who himself is a returning state medalist, guarantees him that top 3. So I think the top 4 are great. I just probably would have put Carasolio. I probably would have put him, DeSantis, Sala, Rohaley. Is probably where I would have, and I may have even, yeah, that's probably where I would have put it. But that's again splitting hairs a little bit. But I just think you have quality of wins, matters a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that I guess you may want to try to avoid potentially having Sala Russell Canali again, Rohaley Russell Sloboda again. But end of the day, I think you got to see them how you think, and if those two guys are definitely the 5, 6 ahead of Sala Rohaley, you got to put them there. So now they have a tougher matchup, right?
Yeah,
Carasolio has Canali, DeSantis has Sloboda in the quarters.
which to me isn't right. I don't like that. I don't love that part.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you. I think they definitely deserved the opportunity to stay away from those guys in that quarterfinal round. But now I guess they'll have to battle back through in the consolations and work their way back to get into the top 7. 133 pounds, Cale Yannick of Moon, your number 1. Gus Stediford of North Allegheny at 2. Gavin Murphy of Kiski at 3. John Emma of Cannon McMillan at 4.
Yeah, and the one in 4 here had a tiebreaker match. Yannick beat Emma 9-6 in tiebreaker. That was a good match between these two. 33s, it's definitely a little bit more wide open than some of our other weight classes, right? Because you have Cale Yannick, who's a state qualifier last year. But outside of that, you don't have anybody that's been to the state tournament, right? So to me, it is wide open in that sense. So I think Gavin Murphy had a really, I think he benefited greatly from getting that third seed. I probably wouldn't have, and I'm sure Peter and Keebler are just going to love me for this, but I mean, I probably would have had Yannick, Stediford, Butera, Emma, then Lynn, maybe even Wright. I don't know. I just don't think when you look at the quality here, right? I mean, Stedford beat Murphy. Murphy beats Parker Joseph, and DJ Knoll. I don't know if Butera beating Lynn is way more impactful, right? Even Butera's win over LaShawn Haley. I feel like I just don't see how Gavin Murphy's the 3 over, even though Murphy has a win over Emma. Emma's been wrestling a lot better and different, and he outplaced him at the Grove City Fred Bell. So yeah, I don't love this, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's something where, right, I would have loved to seen Emma away from Yannick too. I mean,
yeah, right.
going from a tiebreaker match, it was a good match too. It was, back and forth. Emma wrestled very tough. So yeah, I mean, I would have liked to seen Emma either, seeded 3. I understand Murphy has the win, but seeded 3 so that he's away from him, or down to 6, and throw Butera and Lynn at the 4, 5, just to kind of get a little separation. But that's to me, that's where I think I would be looking at.
Yeah, and again, it's hard to overlook a 14-8 win. But that was back 2 months ago, and I think Emma's, I think he's wrestled a lot better. In fact, he has a win over Canali, which I even though he's lost to Canali too. Yeah, I don't know. I just I would have liked to seen it done a little bit differently.
And then you have guys like Evan Tolliver, who's a 7 seed. You got LaShawn Haley, who's unseeded. So you have some battles that could happen here at 133. And to your point, pretty wide open weight class. So uh,
And Jake Wright had a good tournament. I mean, he beat AJ Snatchko from West Allegheny. Snatchko is one of those
yeah,
guys who, I had sort of, I thought maybe he would be a guy who punches through to the state tournament this year, and he's on the outside looking in. So I mean, there's a lot of quality here at 133, especially because it's so wide open in the WPIAL. It's so I mean I love this because obviously Yannick is probably the favorite, but not by much, right? Obviously, a tiebreaker match to the 4th seed.
yeah. No, I'm with you. And yes, Natch goes unseeded as well. So there's gonna be a lot of good matches in the round of 16 in this weight class.
Correct. Yeah.
We've mentioned that in a couple of weights, and this one is definitely one of them. And you could see a lot of great matches in the consolations, guys knocking each other out to grab those 7 spots. So it should be very fun to see. 139, Collier Hartman of Cannon McMillan, the 1, Brooks Blasco of Norwin, the 2, Chase Smith of Franklin Regional, the 3, Olympic Soraro of Mars, the 4.
Yeah. So it seems like Franklin Regional was so hyped up for their team stuff. It sort of, not saying it backfired on them a little bit, but you get good wins and then you fall a little bit. Chase Smith beats Brooks Blasco after losing to him twice, and he loses to him again in the section finals, this time 11-7. So, I mean, those guys could wrestle 100 times, and it could probably be 50-50. But I thought Daniel Smith wrestled well from Collinsville. He had gotten pinned by Piegler from Latrobe a couple times already this year, and he was able to finish 3rd. You look at the North, Soraro just dominated. Cable had a nice win over Jackson Pollock from Kiski, but Soraro is just, I mean, he's been wrestling on a different level. The curious thing to me is, where does he fit into all of this, right?
Yeah.
Mars, we haven't seen a ton of them. We haven't seen a lot of head-to-heads. We haven't seen them wrestle some of the best guys, right? And when you look at like a Chase Smith, I mean, you're 32-7. You've wrestled some of the best competition in the state. Even like Bencho from West Allegheny. It's just going to be interesting to see if Soraro can live up to that, and I think he certainly will. It's just it's gonna be fun. Maybe looking more towards the West region to see kind of where these guys end up, because there was clearly some disparities in how tough some of these sections were. Bencho beating Leventis, wasn't surprising, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I thought Bencho wrestled tough, even against Hartman. Even though he gets teched, he gave up 2 7-point moves. So you give that up, obviously you're going to get teched pretty quickly. But he was wrestling Hartman tough. He was battling him. A lot of good hand fights and things like of that sort. I'm of the opinion, Jeff, because Soraro, we haven't seen a lot of them in certain situations, right? But I would have put him 3. And you may disagree with that, but we've seen Blasco and Smith 4 times. We've seen Blasco win 3 of those. Why are we trying to set up for a 5th? Let's let Soraro have an opportunity to make a WPIAL final. And if it doesn't work out, Blasco is the finalist and Smith takes 3rd, and that's what happens when you lose the section title to him. I mean, I just think that he's had such a great season as a freshman.
Yeah, I mean, he teched Bencho. I mean, it wasn't a win. He teched him, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you're saying the 4th and the 5th seed, right? You're talking about these guys should be, and I don't really love looking at margin of wins or losses especially when it comes to doing rankings or seedings. But I think it does play a little bit of a part there. He teched him. It was 15-0 in 4 minutes and 23 seconds in the MAC finals, right? I mean, so that's I agree with you. Just to get Smith and Blasco not wrestling each other again and have Soraro give him a chance to make a WPIAL final. I'm with you there. You've convinced me.
Oh, wow. That doesn't happen very often. I should write this one down, right?
You should.
145 pounds, Kai Vioma of Connellsville, the number one. Nathan Klingensmith of Norwin, number two. Jake Halstead of Hempfield, area number three. Zach Hill of Seneca Valley at number four.
Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the way things shook out, I don't love where Zach Hill is. I thought he probably could have been a three, but Halstead had a, he's had a good year, finishing third there, and Kai Vielma's clearly the guy, right? Kai Vielma's
Yeah.
is the guy. Klingman Smith beating Halstead, I think, secures his spot where he is. But then it gets pretty wide open. I mean, and Zach Hill's taken some losses, so I'm certainly not gonna say he's very deserving. But yeah, like Chacon, Buccelli, Junko. I think even Finnegan. Like, I'm surprised Finnegan didn't make it in the top 8. That's surprising to me. I thought he should have made it in the top 8 for sure. So that was probably the biggest surprise of 145 for me.
Yeah, and I think he definitely has the ability to even get in the top 7. From the way he's been wrestling this season. So, I agree. I would like Hill to be the 3 just because those 3 guys saw each other last week. Let's see what Hill has as far as that goes. But you'll see a couple of section champs go at it in the quarters
The
for
problem
the
is
opportunity.
Halstead beat him like 2 weeks ago, head to head. So I mean, you
Okay.
kind of have to, like I don't.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just saying, body of work wise, I mean, Hill's a 2-time regional place winner. Halstead has taken some losses, but he just beat him head to head. I mean, there's no better indication of a head to head. So I want to clarify
Yeah.
my statement that it's not that I don't agree with it. It's just that things could have been different.
Yeah, and you're spot on. If it's that head-to-head one clinches, like I said in the beginning, there, I don't have all of those right in front of me, so hard to kind of keep all the track. That's why I got you, Jeff, because you're like an encyclopedia of knowledge over there with all
Again,
the
no one. I mean,
results.
just doing these rankings, combing through it. I mean, because I can tell you, there's certain weights that I have like asterisks by, which like, they're pain in the ass weights because there's so many guys that have beaten each other, and 45 in the WPIAL is one of them, with Hill, Chacon, Buccelli, Junko, and Finnegan. So I have a spreadsheet, and all the way on the right, I have all their wins and losses of other ranked wrestlers. So like I can tell you exactly right away who some of these guys lost to, right? I can tell you that, Finnegan has lost to Leventis, Klingensmith, Curran, Lilly, Firestein, you can go through that, right? So with Hill losing to Halstead, yes, that hurts, but there's a lot of head to heads and comparables here between these guys.
152, Michael Ruan of Franklin Regional is the 1. Griffin Reed of North Allegheny, the 2. Owen Campbell of Plum, the 3. Noah Curran of Norwin, the 4.
Owen Campbell was the guy. He was the guy that came in and upset the apple cart a little bit, beating Noah Curran in sudden victory. That was my biggest takeaway from 152 because Curran had been so good all season for a freshman. Now, granted, you're a freshman, you're going to take some losses, but he had looked so good at the Penn Manor tournament early in this year. We streamed that one. I thought for sure he would be a little bit above Campbell. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because Run is definitely the number 1. Mike, he's clearly the 1 in my opinion. But then like Curran has a win over Reed. Reed has a win over Campbell. Campbell has a win over Curran, right? So how do you do it, right? You go off of like the most recent results potentially, but like, yeah, I mean it's hard to make an argument. But then you have like Rook Smith. Rook Smith I think probably should have been higher than 7. I mean, he's a returning state medalist. I know he injury defaulted in the finals, but come on, like he should have been higher up.
I don't love him behind Logan Slovic. I know Slovic's the section champion, but they didn't wrestle. Smith looked great in the sections. He comes up from his semifinal match. He cradled. I can't remember the wrestler he was against, but he got the cradle, gets the fall, comes up, and his one of his fingers is bent in half. Couldn't even move it,
Oh man.
and he's he was panicked. Like he's like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I do? And like his parents are running onto the mat, and like they're looking at him, and he was freaking out, which I would too. Like if it was me and I can't move my finger, like I would be feeling the same way. But he ends up injury defaulting in the final, and to me, it's like, because of that, he gets punished, and now he has to be behind Logan Slovic, which to me, I think he wins that final. He's the section champ, and then you're throwing him into the mix of this of like, okay, is he a 2? Is he a 3? Is he a 4? Is he in that mix too? But I think even at worst, because of those three guys beating each other, so maybe you just want to put them 2, 3, 4. He's a 5.
Yeah.
To me, putting him at 7, it doesn't do him. It doesn't do right by him.
No, I hear you, and I definitely understand that. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't make it. I don't think it's right. And I think I misspoke. I think I said Curran had a win over Reed. Curran has 2 wins over Zach Jaffe from Kennett this year at Penn Manor. At Bethlehem Liberty, Reed lost to Jaffe. So I was thinking my state rankings were the ones that kind of were screwed up because of that. Because I mean, you lose. Does Jaffe now go ahead of Curran, who he's lost to twice because he beat Griffin Reed, who's seated ahead? Right? It kind of screws things up a little bit. Owen Campbell wrestled really well, and I think he deserves to be, in the top 3 for sure. But Rook Smith probably should have been higher. I would have put him higher than Luke Lilly. He's a returning state medalist, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
without a doubt.
it just and he injury defaulted, so yeah.
And that's the thing in the past. I feel like when there's those situations where guys injury default out of a tournament or something like that, it's usually recognized, right? Like, okay, this is why, and if they're healthy enough to go, let's go ahead and get them back to where they should be seated. Usually the WPIAL is pretty good about that. I mean, we're talking about a couple of seed points down for Smith, but at the end of the day, I do think he should have been higher for sure. 160 pounds, Jack White, or excuse me, Cole Gibbons of Mount Lebanon is number 1. Christian Lowther of Ringgold at 2. Jack White of Norwin at 3. Cooper Dietz of West Mifflin at 4.
You're jumping the gun there with Gibbons beating Calgaro in the finals of the South section. I thought that was, Gibbons he's been solid, right?
Yeah.
How about Sutton Stoner? He was down at 52. He comes up to 60. Wins a section title, which I said that was a good move by him to go from 152 to 160. 160 in the East was all kinds of messed up. Just I mean, even though when you look at it from like seeding perspective, the 1 and 2 finished 1 and 2, right? But Cooper Dietz beating Maastricht and then coming down and beating Hibner and then beating Lilly. Dietz wrestled really well, and Dietz is one of those guys that I feel like has been a little inconsistent. Like at Fred Bell, if this was the Fred Bell tournament, he would have won the damn thing, right? But there's times when maybe he's not wrestling as well as he should. Lowther beats Dietz in ultimate tiebreaker. Then Lowther pins Jack White. Jack White and Jake Lilly back and forth, right? So, but when you look at the seeds, right, I don't see any issues with that. I know Sutton Stoner sitting as a section champ as the 7th, but I don't see any issues with that. I guess the only thing I would potentially argue is Mason Calgaro should have been in the top 8.
Yeah.
I don't know how he doesn't get 8. I'm okay with Sutton Stoner getting that 7th, but why is Calgaro not above Hibner from Bell Vernon at the 8? That's the one that I was like, I would have put him in top 8 for sure. Find him somewhere in the top 8.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think he's definitely somebody who should be in the top 8 and wrestled tough. I mean, Gibbons won the match, but it's not like Calgaro was getting crushed by any means, right? He was definitely in the match, and was battling tough. So I'm surprised he's not in the top 8, and I think he has the potential to wreck this bracket a little bit, to try to claim a spot in the top 7. 172 pounds, Zach LeBrier of Thomas Jefferson at 1, Liam Costa of Moon at 2, Carter Morvay of North Hills at 3, Ethan Cartwright of Franklin Regional at 4.
So you know how I said I have an asterisk for like pain in the ass weights? This weight got 2 asterisks. So that's like a double pain, right? Caleb Kinsey, who is a returning state qualifier, right, from Armstrong, was 7th in the region prior to that. Screwed up everything. He loses to Travis Shear from Kiski 10-2. But then he loses again in the wrestlebacks, loses to Dom Finella 2-0, right? That screwed up everything for me. Carter Morvay, he had already had a win over him. Like that was no big deal, right? And then you have from the East section, LeBrier had a little bit of a close match there with Cartwright. Cartwright beats Sidney Hand for like the 10th time this year, but then LeBrier beats him 10-9, right? And he had really been looking good, beating Liam Costa pretty handedly. So 72 kind of got a little bit screwed up. I thought Riley Schaefer from Norrin wrestled well, finishing in 3rd, beating Hand and beating Caden Wills from West Mifflin. So looking at the seeds, I think LeBrier and Costa and Morvay are clearly the top 3. I think Cartwright is clearly in the top 4. Caleb Kinsey, I mean, man, you know, you got Michael Lawrence on the outside. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not mad at where that ended up. It's just crazy to think, you know, like I don't know. That you have a returning state qualifier at 8 there, but he took a bunch of losses. I mean, Finella lost to Wills, right? And Finella just beat Kinsey. So I don't know. I think Sidney Hand could have said, well, maybe I should have been up there, right? Instead, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
it's a mess.
yeah,
72 is a mess.
It is, and I think, you know, LeBrier, Costa, Morvay are solid top 3. You can even go as far as like Cartwright and Shear, I think, are in that mix for in the top 7, right? But then it's like, who's those couple extra spots? Bear Bruckner of Trinity's in that mix. Finella, Kinsey now, you know, can he get things right to be able to get to the next round? Sidney Hand. So there's definitely a lot of guys who, you know, have a chance here to get in that top 7. I feel like there's a clear 3 and then to a next tier 4 5, but definitely some openings to be able to get you know, your ticket punched to the next round.
Yeah.
189 pounds, Mario Hutcherson of Kiski at 1, Hunter Snyder of Latrobe 2, Bryce Collins of Cannon McMillan at 3, Tegan Barr of Trinity at 4.
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprises here, right? Unlike 172, this is pretty clear. The only thing I would say is Bryce Collins. He must be getting better, right? I mean, because he comes out and wins a section title. He beats Barr, who he had lost to. You know, this was a funky one.
Olszewski too in the semis.
Well, that too, right? Olszewski beat him up too. Tech followed him. So, I mean, yeah, this was definitely, he was the question mark that I had coming into this. But, you know, I don't think there was. Oh, and the other big surprise was Trace Kinsey beating Nez Green.
Yeah.
Nez Green, who's been just so good his whole career. He was a senior. He's never made it to Hershey. Was a regional medalist twice already. Loses to Trace Kinsey. Maybe Trace was pissed off because Caleb didn't do well at 172, and he came out and wrestled like a ball of fire. But I mean, yeah, this 89 didn't get nearly as screwed up. You know, Nez Green being at the 8 spot, like I'm good with that. I'm good. The top 8 here, it'll work itself out, and you have the top 2 that are clearly the top 2. Collins and Barr may wrestle again too, so it's all going to work out.
Yeah, for sure. I like Collins and Barr to advance. Top 2 for sure. Hutcherson and Snyder collision course with one another. Hutcherson's been phenomenal this season. So those seem like definitely it's a matter of like 5, 6, 7. Can Nez Green turn it back on to get into that mix?
which I think he
He's just
can.
outside, so uh, definitely interesting to see how that plays out. 215 pounds, Elijah Brown of Bell Vernon at 1, Cooper Roskowski of Kiski at 2, Roan Tustin of Waynesburg 3, Braden Collins of Cannon Mac at 4.
So Tustin beats Collins in that head-to-head in the section finals, which is kind of what we wanted to see. Um, I think the question is how healthy is Roskowski? There's definitely some injury concerns there. So if he's healthy and ready to go, I mean, him and Elijah Brown, they've wrestled in the biggest stages on wrestling. They wrestled in the state finals, so could see that again. But I think the question is is anybody else nipping at their heels or Roskowski's heels, depending on how healthy he is. I don't think Roan Tustin or Braden Collins has a chance to do that. Cale Ott was the one that was kind of interesting to me, where he ended up. I think, I just think it was he benefited from a really weak section in the East in at 215. I mean, the East was so bad at 215. I think like Joe Geller's probably better than him. I think Tay Bradshaw is better than him. Jackson Higgins is probably better, but I mean, it is what it is, right? I'm not overly concerned about that, right? Because it's all you have the two. We're not talking about 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, right? It's a little bit more than that.
I like the top 4 here. I think they're solid.
And you
I
get the
think,
top 4 right, you're okay, right?
yeah, and but that's without question that they did. Brown, Roskowski, definitely 1, 2. Tustin Collins next tier 3, 4, and then from there. Does Odd have what it takes? Bradshaw, I like him to be in that top 7 mix. And then you got some guys who are unseeded even, right? Razapur from Moon, Holub from Trinity. Can they get in the mix? So we'll see how it plays out. But to me, I think, the top 4 are right. And it's going to be a battle for those final 3 spots. 285 pounds, Jeff. This one is the interesting one to me. Braden McConaughey of North Allegheny is the 1. Edric Williams of Trinity, the 2. Cam Dana of West Allegheny, the 3. John Montgomery of Franklin Regional, the 4. Not mentioned, unseeded, Philip Rierick of Armstrong was winning in his semifinal match. Was up pretty. I think he was up by 6 or 7 points. Injury defaults. The question is, how healthy is Rierick? Is he going to be able to go? But he defaults all the way down to 6th place. This is what we talked about earlier, where typically the committee recognizes that, and then they put them right back to where they should be, not as the 6th place finisher. But here he is, a guy who's a state medalist, who we're talking about as a potential state finalist, state champ type quality wrestler, unseeded in the WPIAL tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give the benefit of the doubt that they know something that we don't about like his injury, but I mean, let me put it into perspective. Rierick and McConaughey have wrestled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. 7 times. Can you guess how many times Rierick's won that match?
7 times.
6. He lost once. 6, but the times that he's won, he's pinned him 6 times. Okay. I'm okay. Look, and I dropped Rierick in our rankings. I dropped him to number 2 in the region, which I think is fair, right? Because it is unknown of where he's at health-wise, right? But my gosh, you can't, even if there's a chance he's going to wrestle, you do not put him outside of the top 8, right? I mean, that's just bad, right? That's just bad. Again, unless they know something that we don't, like that he's like 95% sure not going to be wrestling. I don't know, but it's just, this guy's, it was number 2 in the state up until this week. He was number 1 when Dean Bechtold was out. So like, come on, I like Montgomery where he's at. Again, his move up of 215 to heavyweight, I think is going to pay off.
Do you think he should have been higher?
What's that?
Do you think Montgomery should have been higher?
Yeah, I mean, I do and I don't. I mean, like, Edric Williams benefits, and this is where I think it's like they listen to past results sometimes. Like Cam Dana, right, is a return state qualifier, but he's lost to Edric Williams twice. So
Yep.
instead of putting Edric Williams and Cam Dana all the way down at like 4 and 5, they put him at 2 and 3 because Cam Dana is outside of Rierick and McConaughey, he's clearly the best guy. But they don't. They put Williams at 2, Dana at 3, right? But they didn't apply that same logic at some of these other weights, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Montgomery has a argument to be at the especially. I mean, I'm operating off of you're not seating Phil Rierick for whatever reason that is. So if you're not seating him, then I think Montgomery has a argument to be made that he should be the second or at least the third, right? I mean, not the fourth on the same side as McConaughey. I don't see that. But Edric Williams is like you have two really good wins over Cam Dana. Okay, right? That's good.
Yeah.
But what does that mean actually, right? John Montgomery's a little bit more consistent in by all measures.
Yeah, I'd be putting Montgomery too, in my opinion.
This
Wasn't
is
sure if there was any
also assuming
head-to-head
that we're
there.
not seeding Rurik because really he should be 3.
Yeah, I mean, Rierick should be 1, regardless of him defaulting and finishing in 6th place. To your point, unless the committee knows he's not going to go, but they have him in there. But obviously, you usually replace the wrestler if he's not going to go. So um, clearly, he's still a questionable decision at the worst. And if you want to say like, hey, we got to give McConnell the top seed, whatever. Like Rierick should be top 2 seeded in this tournament, regardless of him being 6th in the section. Montgomery to me is if he's not seeded, a 2. If he is seeded, a 3.
Yeah.
And then take Williams, the next seed from there. But yeah, to me, I think Montgomery got a little bit of a lower seed, and obviously the fact that Rierick's not in this top 8 is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean where's he going to end up? That's the question.
Yeah.
Like where's it is and how healthy is he? I mean because if he's good to go, that I'm pretty upset if I have to wrestle him and I'm one of the top seeds, So yeah, I don't know. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, the Montgomery and Edric Williams one. This is where so like for rankings purposes, this is where I dive a little bit deeper into it. And so like if you were asking me head to head, they haven't wrestled head to head, but Montgomery and Edric Williams have a couple common opponents. First one is this kid from Delaware Valley, not in Pennsylvania, University in Morgantown, West Virginia. Edric Williams lost to him 17-6. Montgomery beat him 10-1. They both wrestled him in the month of December of 2025. Edric Williams lost to him 17-6. Montgomery beat him 10-1. Like that's all the evidence I need, right? That's where he should be, right? So just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. He definitely, in my
Neither of
thoughts,
them are
are
returning regional qualifiers. Neither of them are returning anything. But you go to head to head.
yeah, Montgomery's just had a great season. To me, other than McConnell, I don't see anyone else who should be ahead of him. Even though he wrestles 215 and 285, to me, Rierick and McConnell are the only guys that I could see beating him this weekend. But we'll see how it plays out. Wrestling this weekend is at Cannon McMillan High School. Again, top 7 move on Friday at 5 p.m. Is when wrestling starts. Goes back underway on Saturday at 10 a.m. with the medal matches starting at 3 p.m. Jeff, we've gotten through AA and AAA. We still have the girls to go to. You still good to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go, brother.
Well, let's start at 100 pounds on the girls' side. Kristen Walzer of Montour is your top seed. Araceli Clem of Cannon McMillan, number 2. Carly Jocks of Mount Lebanon at 3, Julia Flores of Connellsville at 4.
Yeah, so Walzer is the one that, she had been wrestling with the boys. She's a two-time state medalist, so was sixth in the state the last 2 years at the PIAA state tournament. Clearly the best wrestler here, but she had been wrestling with the boys a little bit. Carly Jocks is one that intrigues me to see kind of where she ends up, but Clem's been wrestling really well. The girls, it's hard. It's hard to really get a grasp on because, I always joke and I tell coaches of girls, I'm like, don't have them pin anybody. Have them tech fall girls, because when you pin somebody, it doesn't really mean a whole lot in girls wrestling. To me, at least, it doesn't, because I've seen some of the best girls get pinned and then turn around and tech fall that same wrestler, right? So like, get a major decision, don't go for the pin, get a major, get a tech fall, go the Bo Bassett style, get a tech fall, because then you're like, oh, I beat her 15-0, right? As opposed to I pinned her, because pinning anybody, especially in the girls wrestling, I feel like anybody can pin anybody in girls wrestling, it seems.
106 pounds, Malia Ramos of Cannon McMillan, your top seed. Ella Trahan of Fort Cherry at number 2. Naira Carnahan of Valley at number 3. And Blythe Letters of Shaler at 4.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Letters down at the 4th spot. She's a returning state qualifier. Ramos, I think, is there's no reason why she shouldn't be towards the top there. Trahan is a returning state medalist. She was 8th in the state last year. I think Riley Maines from Southmoreland is going to make some noise here as well. So I really do like the top, even like Lily Perry from Mount Lebanon. The top 6 here are pretty tough in my opinion, but I think Trahan could, she could come out and win it, if she wrestles to her ability. Obviously she placed in Hershey, but Ramos has been probably the most consistent throughout the season.
Yeah, this one here has the makings of a battle, right? Because you got only 5 girls advanced to the Western Regional Tournament. So, I mean, this one goes pretty deep. Obviously, Ramos at the top makes it challenging, right? Because she's one of the best in the state. And then after that, between Trahan, Carnahan, Letters, Maines, Perry, I mean, there's going to be girls that their seasons are going to end here this coming weekend. And they have the ability to be they should be keep wrestling. So
Yep.
106 is going to be a fun weight class to watch. At 112, Isla Silva of Mount Lebanon. She's your top seed. Trinity Moore of Connellsville at 2. Raya Senapal of Burgestown at 3. Ella Campbell of Burrell at 4.
Yeah, I mean, Silva's the real deal. She's really good, and if you haven't seen her wrestle yet, I mean, she went up to 118 to wrestle Marley Solomon when they wrestled at the Southwest Girls Invitational at W&J. Just fearless, right? So she's fun to watch. Trinity Moore is a returning state qualifier. She was a state medalist the year prior to that. She's in, I think, probably her and Senapal, I think, could go back and forth. I mean, 2 and 3 is not really the end of the world. Campbell's been wrestling well all season as well. She's looking to make her first state tournament. But yeah, I mean, maybe not the depth that we had at 106, but there's certainly some, the top 4 here are pretty solid in my opinion.
For sure. That Senapal name, obviously, 2 older brothers
right.
who both had over 100 wins at Burgestown, and she's been wrestling with the boys up until this point, right?
Right, exactly.
So she's definitely one to watch for sure. 118 pounds, Marley Solomon of Cannon McMillan, undefeated top seed. Brayley Ireland of Knock, number 2. Kayla Kiesecker of Derry at 3. Mia Scalise of Ringgold at 4.
Yeah, so obviously you have one of the best girls in the state and the nation with Marley Solomon, state champion, Fargo National All-American. She's really good, right? Obviously she should be the top seed. She's number 1 in the state. Brayley Ireland from Knock, returning state medal. She was 6th in the state last year. Kiesecker is the one that intrigues me. Kiesecker last year, she was at West Mifflin, where Mason was, and then they went over to Derry. But Kiesecker, she's been up to 124. She was a regional qualifier last year. she took some losses at 124 that maybe weren't the best losses, but she's really solid. So I'm interested to see where she ends up. And Scalise, same thing. I mean, I think she's been wrestling pretty well. I thought Benner's had some good wins this year. She beat McGuire from Fort LaBeouf, and I think, yeah, I mean, Carly O'Connor or O'Connell is another one, pretty tough. So yeah, I think this is a good weight class for the WPIL.
Yeah, and Kiesecker surprised some folks last year, right? At the
She
WPIAL
had wrestled with
tournament.
the boys at West Mifflin.
Yeah, right. So she didn't get seeded and came out, had a great tournament at the WPIAL level, and I'm excited to see her and Ireland go at it. I think that's going to be a really great match. Should they both make it to the semis?
Yeah, her and Trinity Moore
124.
wrestled a bunch last year at the. That's
Yeah,
where she kind of upset some people or upset her.
yeah, absolutely. 124, Uni Ayala of Cannon McMillan, your top seed. Anna Duncan of South Park at 2. Ariana Stratter of Pine Richland at 3. Sadie Sarver of Greensburg Salem at 4.
Yeah, I thought Stratter was going to get the top seed here. She's a returning state seventh place finisher. I don't really see anything on her results to disqualify her from being the one of the top couple here. And Uni, I mean, Uni's been wrestling really, really well. I mean, she's been wrestling down to 118 a lot. She's a state qualifier. She was state sixth the year prior. So clearly she knows what she's doing. She's having a win over Anna Duncan. So you have 3 girls here that all have placed at the state tournament. With Strider taking 7th last year, Uni taking 6th in 24, and Anna Duncan taking 5th last year. So you got some really quality wrestlers at 124 pounds. And then you had like Clausen from Plum as well. Sarver is one that I'm keeping an eye on. She's had some, and all of these girls, they have some inconsistent results. Outside of like your top tier ones like Marley Solomon, there's just some inconsistency there. So, but I think I don't have a problem with any of the seeds. I just thought maybe Strider could have been a little bit higher.
130 pounds, Haley Smarsh of Moon, your top seed. Sophia Davis of Plum at 2. Emma Petrovich of Connellsville at 3. Sydney Laboon of Upper St. Clair at 4.
I was curious to see where they put Petrovich because she hasn't had a lot of matches this year. In fact, I think she only has 4 coming into this. Smarsh is a two-time returning state medal. She was a state finalist, lost to Aubrey Kraser from Easton in the finals in 2024. Smarsh has had a great season this year. She's won a lot of the big tournaments. Safi Davis from Plum, 2-time state medalist, 4th in 24 and 7th in 2025. I think she's clearly the 2 here. Like I said, Petrovich, I didn't know where they were going to throw her in because it gets pretty wide open, I feel like, after those first 2. Sydney Laboon, she I believe she moved up from 24 to 30, but I mean, it's really wide open. So I don't mind where Petrovich is at 3.
Yeah, and Laboon having a great season as a freshman this season. 136 pounds, Maggie Alfira of Laurel at number 1. Abigail Dolanch of Avella at number 2. Juliana Van Slyke of Mount Lebanon at 3. Lily McLaughlin of Fox Chapel at 4.
Yeah, I didn't hear you cheer for like Dolanch for Avella. The Eagles.
Hey, she was fantastic last year.
She was good,
and she's been great so far this season.
Do you have any feelings towards her not being in the top seed here? I mean, she's a 2-time state medal. She was 5th last year, 6th in 24. Alfera was 3rd in the state last year. Alfera, she split matches with Kelly Enterline from Greenville. I mean, I'm not. I don't think 1 and 2 really matters here. I think Julia Van Slyke is clearly the 3 as well. So I don't have any issues with that. McLean maybe could have been higher than McLaughlin from Fox Chapel, but outside of that, I mean, maybe even Brungard. I think she's fine where she's at. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of issues with it. It's a
Yeah,
balanced weight class. It's a very balanced weight class when you have two returning state medalists and some solid girls.
yeah, I think there's a clear top two, right? Off Aaron Dolanch. They're going to be on a collision course with one another. Don't know, the head-to-head side, right? Just like I was mentioning with the boys, sometimes, I know some results, but certainly not at the top of my head like they are for yourself. But whether these two have wrestled or not, I'm not sure this season. But I think they're on a collision course and should be a great finals matchup. And two girls that, in my opinion, are going to be top 8 in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
um, how they could wrestle each other, two maybe three times here over the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, to your point, I think even the balance is there 3, 4, and 5 for this weight class. 142 pounds, Ava Golding of Kiski at number 1, Josephine Dolman of Norwin at 2, Grace Nasman of Upper St. Clair at 3, Alexia Ashby of Trinity at 4.
Really good weight class here. Ava Golding, number 2 in the state currently. Two-time state medalist, was third in 2024. She's wrestled Dolman, and was this? Yeah, this was last year. Last year at Powerade, and she tech falled her. I don't think. I mean, if these two meet, I don't know if it's going to be a tech fall. Dolman's super tough. I really like Josephine. I think she's, she was injured last year, wasn't able to compete in the postseason. But I like these top two here. Naismith as well. I mean, she's number 8 in the state currently. She's a returning state qualifier. Um, Ashby as well from Trinity. She's a returning state qualifier. I think she's going to do really well, not only in the WPIAL but in the West region. So yeah, I think it's a really good weight overall. Even Bachman from Fox Chapel's had a good year. So yeah, I think just like we talked about 36. I think Golding and Dolman are on a collision course, but I think like a Naismith and Ashby, they're going to be right there in the mix.
148, Paige Jocks of Mount Lebanon, your number 1, Elena Ashby of Trinity at 2, Elia Henderson of Cannon McMillan 3, Kaylee Tuel of Seneca Valley at 4.
Paige Jocks has had a great season. Her biggest win of the season is against Jamison Strickland from Sun Valley, who is a returning state runner-up last year. Jocks has not made it to the podium in Hershey yet, but she's had such a good year. She deserves to be where she's at. Thought Henderson probably could have been ahead of Ashby, but 2-3, it's not the end of the world. Maybe not as much depth as 36 and 42. But like Flowers, I thought Flowers probably could have been a little bit higher. Virginia Smith has been solid. Will Trout as well. I think you have like the top 1 and 2, maybe the top 3 are in a tier, and then Toole, Smith, Flowers, I think, and Will Trout are kind of in another tier. But yeah, there's gonna be some good battles to finish the medal rounds.
Yeah, and again, top 5 move on. So, to your point, Jocks seems like she's definitely the queen of the weight class, so to speak. But you have Ashby Henderson in that 2-3 mix, and the battle really could come down to those 4 or 5 spots. Virginia Smith of Avella had a good WPIAL tournament last year. Can she do it again this season? But there's depth for sure as far as who those last couple of wrestlers are going to be to advance. 155, Camilla Hathaway of Mount Lebanon. She's your 1. Carson Champion of Norwin 2. Addison Erslutcher of North Allegheny 3. Olivia Schultz of Connellsville at 4.
Yeah, so the big news today was at least that Violet LaSure, a 2-time state champion, and she's got to be top 3 in the nation. She moved up from 48 to 55. Her sister, Juliet Alt, who's also a state champion, moved down to 48. So Camilla Hathaway and her could be on a collision course in the state finals potentially. Hathaway has had a phenomenal year as a freshman. Carson Champion is a returning state medalist. They're 2 and 3 in the state currently right now. It does drop off a little bit after that when you have 2 of the top girls in the state. It does drop off a little bit. Ursula is a freshman. She's been wrestling really well. But like Schultz could do well. Delange could do well from Avella. So even Sierra Wills from Shaler, I thought has been impressive. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be a battle. It's way more wide open. at 155 after the top two for sure.
Yeah, and look at the freshmen too in this weight class, right?
The
I mean,
freshmen are only
Hathaway
going to get
being one of
better.
them.
They're only going to get
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Hathaway, you have Urschler, you have Gabriella Dolanch of Avella, you have Sierra Willis of Shaler in that mix. So you got some talented girls here as freshmen seated in the top eight. So it's gonna be, and you got to wonder too. Will some of them spread apart weight wise as they get older? But that's definitely good to see as far as for the sport to see so many girls coming in and looking in that top eight at such a young age. 170, Alyssa Tresco of Kiski area. She's your one. Octavia Walker of Norwin, two. Audrey Calgaro of Cannon McMillan, three. Bailey Burnott of Best Center at four.
Yeah, the only thing I thought Bernat could have been higher than Calgaro. Audrey's just, I mean, she was fifth in the state when it was not sanctioned, and then the first year it was sanctioned, she was third in the state. Didn't have a great season last year. She's been better this year. But you have two really at the top two that are very solid. Tresco is a returning state qualifier. She's number 4 in the state. And Octavia Walker from Norwin, she's a 2-time state qualifier. She's number 8 in the state. So you have two top 10 girls right out of the gate. Calgaro and Walker have wrestled a bunch. So I'm okay with her being at the 3. But Bernat, I mean, I just thought maybe based on quality, the body of work, I think she probably could have had an argument for 3. But it's really wide open after those top 4. It's really wide open.
190, Elena Clausen of Plum, number 1. Liliana Giulianelli of Peters Township, 2. Hannah Hornick of Seneca Valley, 3. Raven Carmen Body of Connellsville at 4.
It's interesting because Hornick moved up from 170 to 190. Giulianelli from Peters Township, she had been up at 235. She's down at 190. This has gotten a lot better. Clausen's a returning state finalist. She was second in the state last year, losing to Hatella from Quakertown. So she's clearly one of the top girls here. Juliana was 4th in the state last year. Again, serious talent there. Hornick was a state qualifier, 2-time state qualifier, but again, she's up a weight, so it's hard to really gauge. It's not like you're moving up from 45 to 55. You're moving up from 170 to 190, right? So I mean, how much is that going to affect you when it comes to wrestling some of these bigger bodies? So Paladine from Shaler, I think, has had a good year. Raven Cameron Body, again, she's been super consistent. And even Heidi Radford from NA, I think she's been wrestling really well too. So yeah, it's definitely top end heavy, but then it kind of evens out a little bit with some quality talent between like 3 and 5 and 6.
235, Zoe Murphy of Southmoreland, your top seed. Jenna Chapman of Albert Gallatin, 2. Alex Gosnell of North Allegheny, 3. London Ellis of Cannon McMillan, 4.
Yeah, Zoe Murphy is another one who's a returning state finalist. I mean, you have a bunch of girls here who have done really well at the PIAA state tournament. You have Smarsh, you have Zoe Murphy, you have Clausen, who we just talked about. I mean, these all were girls that made it to the state finals on top of the folks that have won state titles. So Zoe Murphy, number 2 in the state currently. I think she's right where she should be. Jenna Chapman's had a really good year. She's currently number 6 in the state. Heavyweight is a little bit more wide open, but I definitely think somebody like a Gosnell from NA who has never made it to the regional tournament can do well here and also in the West region to make it to Hershey. It's been a little bit back and forth, like Osborne and Cantoris, even London Ellis from Cannon Mac. London Ellis is somebody who last year was a state qualifier. She didn't have a great record coming into the tournament, but she ended up making it to the state tournament. I think you can see a couple of these girls do the same thing this year.
For the girls, they are wrestling at Mount Lebanon High School on Saturday, so just a one-day tournament. And wrestling will start at 9 a.m. And looks like wrestling is just going to go straight through. So the rounds will continue unless 30-minute rest time is needed. So they don't have a set time for the medal matches like they do in AA and AAA. So just be something to kind of keep track on online to see where they're at if you're looking to, go for a certain round, whether it's the semis or the finals at Mount Lebanon. But top five, we'll move on to the Western Regional Tournament here coming up, and there's 4 wrestlebacks from the round of 16 for the girls. Jeff, that's a lot of previewing we just did as we covered all 3, AA, AAA, and the girls.
A lot of previewing. It's time to tuck in. Actually, I'll probably be up for another couple hours updating rankings because I think we just got more brackets and entries in. District 2 is such a pain to get seeds from, so they're the last of the Mohicans here.
So dial in, I guess, get a good show on, right? And just looking at rankings for the next couple hours for you.
Yep. It's a life of Jeff Upson.
Well, for Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. We appreciate you listening in.